Hey, so this is Tobias, right? I met Tobias actually in Blacks in Technology, but I got a chance to meet Tobias in person um, when I was invited to go to I guess you could call it a conference slash Righteous Weekend hackathon as well. So I met Tobias and actually met Darlene. They also run the incubator in Atlanta, uh, focused on Black and Latino women, and he also works for Microsoft. So with Tobias, what I have found is he is the nicest man I know, and not to shy away anybody else, but he's really a good guy. He's also knowledgeable. So today he's going to introduce Azure Functions. I asked him to, I said, hey, I need your help for this conference. He said, no problem. 10 minutes later, he had already submitted his talk. So, hey, if someone submits a talk that quick, he is cool with me. So I give the floor to Tobias now, but um, he's doing Azure Functions, and he's just a cool guy.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. I'm really not that cool. But you have to get to know me to find that out. Um, all right. But thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I try to be a good guy. People have been good to me, so I try to pass it on. All right. So today I'm really going to talk about service architecture and microservices through the lens of Azure Functions. What we'll do is, and I don't know if this is still true, but I believe at one time, Tamika told me this is supposed to be a workshop and not just somebody talking. So probably in about 10 to 15 minutes, we're actually going to start fire up an Azure function, and you can all follow along and go along with me if you like. Okay, so let's see. I guess we need to first talk about. I lost my down key here. All right, there we go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how I got to here. So once upon a time, I was actually a graphic designer, and if you'd asked me at the time would I be doing anything else, I would have probably said no. I'm going to be a graphic designer for the rest of my life. Of course, the things that we say and the things we do are usually two different things. I started getting into web design, and from there, it's just been kind of a slippery slope. So now I'm totally do total development. I come from a front end stack, but I really got my chops at going to hackathons. I used to go. This is when I lived in New York, and when hackathons were all the rage and on the trend. There used to be a hackathon about every week, and I used to go to one just about every week. My wife used to call herself a hackathon widow, but at the time, I actually had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I met a lot of cool people, and a lot of smart people, and a lot of people to aspire to. If you don't go to hackathons, give them a try. They're actually very, very cool. They're not as big as they used to be, so you may have trouble finding one, but if you find one, definitely go to one. All right, so look, what is serverless architecture? You'll get a lot of different opinions about what serverless architecture is, and some people are kind of down on it. Some people are really extra hype about it. But at the end of the day, serverless architecture is really just another design pattern for your backend stack. I actually serverless architecture does not really have a stack, so people will probably bristle at that a little bit. But let's first talk about what is the now, what people, when they think of a backend stack or having a backend to their website or web applications, this is usually what you think of. You have your clients, and then you have your backend, and it makes a call to a database, and then on a parallel track you have your security stuff going on. But the new thing everyone's talking about is serverless architecture, and that's when you don't have an actual server, you just have different functions. They go to all the keywords and cool things that people say, like non-SQL databases and blob storage. Right now, there are lots of choices to try to figure this out. A lot of people are trying to work on it. I think it's all the big players are getting on to it. So you actually have a whole bunch of choices. You have Google Functions, you have AWS Lambda, and then of course you have Azure Functions. I'm sure there are a few other people in the field. I think these are three big players. Each have their kind of pros and cons. I will say that I think right now that Azure Functions supports the most languages, which is three: C Sharp, F Sharp, and Node. I think Google Functions just supports Node, and I forget what Lambda functions or AWS Lambda supports. All right, so we're about to go through some design models for serverless architecture. When you see these, I mean, a few of them, you're probably gonna say, no, that's not right. But it's all good because again, these are like really large buckets I'm talking about. All right, so this is going back to the old and busted slide. When you talk about architecture now, you kind of, or actually, one way to do serverless architecture is really just to mirror what you have for large applications now, called monolithic, where you make a bunch of calls to one large JavaScript file. You could do this with functions. You could put everything in one file. I'm a little bit defeating the purpose of serverless architecture if you do this, but this is one way to do it. So when we get to more, when you think of microservices, this is more what you think of when you have several different files and each of them have their unique use cases. You know, so you can see in this example, the client's hitting a user.js and a game.js, and each of them have their own request. When you get really hip and happening and really granular, you can actually spin out everything into its own function, and each one have one single thing it's supposed to do. Some purists will probably tell you, yeah, this is the way to do it. But remember, you know, more nanoservices, more problems. You just got a lot more to take care of, and you have to build in a lot of redundancies when things may not work. And then this is the one I like probably the best, and this is kind of middle ground. We kind of hybrid, where you have more of a separation of concerns rather than just let's just separate everything or jam everything together. Jam everything together. So you're more thinking about the human view of things, and not necessarily trying to just go by the book. So this is the hybrid model where you have kind of a mix of microservices and nanoservices. Okay, so I'm not going to stay too long on this slide. This is the Azure Portal, and this is how to find Azure Functions. In my opinion, I think Azure's great, but I think it does way too much, and when you first get into it, you just don't know where to go. So if you do ever get into an Azure Portal, just type in functions, and it'll come right up as the first thing. All right. So this is where, let's see. All right, let's see what else I got here. Okay, we're actually going to walk through for the next 3 slides. I'm going to kind of skip past them because we're actually going to do this for a couple of minutes and walk through this. And we're going to go to functions.azure.com in just a few minutes. And this is what we're going to see when we get there. And this is going to be our endpoint, but we'll talk about that in just a second. For Azure Functions, these are the features and integrations. I'm just earning my paycheck here, but you know, try out Lambda and Google Functions too, because each are going to have their pros and minuses. All right, let's go to that page. This is where it would take you. Microsoft likes to it's almost like the business model of crack dealers back in the 80s. They give you the first one for free, then we get you hooked. So you can start with Azure Functions right now for free. You can just try it for free. And once you go to functions.azure.com, and it starts you right off. We're going to click on, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. There's one thing I want to show you before we do this. I want to show you an example of one I've already put together, just in case our one we're going to create does not work as expected. Let's see where I want to go. All right. What I wanted to do is I wanted to start messing with the Marvel API. Anyway, so it gives you a whole bunch of information. And they give you a bunch of endpoints. with this, you need to authenticate, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you need to do, and then you go ahead and get your characters. What I want to do is put out a list of all the events that the Hulk has been in. And on load, first time Azure, because it's spinning up, because you only get charged for Azure as you use it. The first time that you hit it, it takes a little bit longer for it to spin up. So keep that in mind. But once it's up, it's almost like if anybody has done anything with Heroku, that first time it takes a little bit longer, but the next time after that, it's up and running, and it's just waiting for more requests. All right, so this is just the first 20 events that the Hulk from the Marvel Universe has been involved in. And this is my this is my URL for my Azure function. And let's look at my Azure function real quick. All right. Actually, I want to show it to you in. So this is a quick shot at the portal, and we'll take a look at this in a second when we build our own Azure functions. But you can do everything from the web browser. Right now, I would not necessarily suggest that, especially if you're working on something rather complicated, because the error handling is not necessarily where it needs to be. So if something's busted, you might not necessarily know it, and you're pulling your hair out trying to figure out what's wrong. Working locally is out the scope of what we're talking about today, but if you start getting to Azure Functions, I definitely should stress that that's probably where you want to go if you're developing Azure Functions. You know, at the top of this, it says that your app is currently read-only because you have a source control on. It's really nice because you can actually just hook it up with your GitHub, and whenever changes, whatever you make from locally, it'll push up to GitHub, and then it'll push over to Azure Functions. So I want to take you to my GitHub. I use Node. That's my backend language of choice at the moment. And you run it just like you would any other Node application. You can do requires, have a bunch of functions going on happening here, and then I am using promises. It does support the latest version of Node, so you can use it is Node, so you can use most of the ES6 stuff like let and all the new variable names and promises and stuff like that natively, which is very nice because you're not worrying about clients. This is all backend. And I just wanted to kind of show you this to show something a little bit more extensive, because what we're about to do is going to be a little simpler. All right. Any questions about that? I definitely, the Marvel API is a really good one to kind of go into because it's got a nice library. You can figure things out, and if you like Marvel like I do, or comic books like I do, then it's additional goodness. All right.
No,
Any questions?
no. Will your talk be on GitHub as well?
Will this talk be on GitHub, or will
Your talk,
about how to link Azure Function to GitHub?
or link the Marvel functions or whatever, or just an example in its totality.
No, we will not. We probably will not link it to GitHub today. I mean, it's really,
Okay.
really easy. I mean, you can look at it, see how easy it is, but it's going to fall out the scope of this.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So if you have not gone to functions.azure.com, please do and click on try, and you can start with your first function right away. Again, they have C# and they have JavaScript available right away. And I know they have F# too. Maybe F# in beta or preview right now. But it's one you can select if you're in the actual portal. And then it also gives you a couple of the options. You can have one just kick off once a day, 3 times a minute, 100 times a minute. Wait, 60 times a minute maybe? I don't know. And then data processing, where if you want to pull it from a data source. So we're just going to do a webhook API, meaning when we do a regular HTTP request, we're just going to return something. All right, so we can create this function. Oh, it's making me sign in. All right, what else? Make me sign in. All right, give me a minute. It does make you sign in. Actually, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm actually going to just go to my portal because I think it's going to make life easier for all of us. Do it this way. Do it right here, I guess. All right, what I'm doing now is a little bit what I talked about in the presentation, where I'm going to start a new function. Most of these items. There it is. All right, so I'm creating a function within the portal. I'm just going to take you to the same place it took you if you're doing this for free. Let's see. Okay. Just ask me some setup information, like what kind of name I want, what resource group I want to use, just to get me started. And it'll just take a second to deploy.
Does anyone have any questions? Anybody lost? You can also type if your microphone is not on.
You can get, if you're interested in looking at Azure more, when you first sign up, they give you like $200 for like the first month or something. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. If it doesn't come up, then we'll do something different. There it is. Okay. All right, so this is close to the screen we're looking at for the free Azure. Again, I'm going to just use a webhook API with a JavaScript. It also gives you some, it also tries to be helpful and gives you a bunch of scenarios that you might want to start off with, like time trigger JavaScript, C# time trigger. And again, we're just going to use HTTP trigger JavaScript. And that's just trying to be helpful and giving you some source code to start out with. All right, so again, this is just very minimal. Just tell the one thing that does kind of add is context object, and this is what the functions run off of. So you'll see that a bunch of times to let Azure know, oh, there's something you want to do. There's a bunch of methods and functions that are added to the context object, but the ones that are really important are context done and then context res, which I guess I don't know what that RES stands for. Okay. So the other important part is it does give you the endpoint. We're going to copy this. I'm going to open up Postman for expediency. and this is what comes back. Please pass a name to the query string or request body. If we go back real quick, we'll see what it's actually asking for. It's looking for something to be passed with the query string, looking for a name. So let's go ahead and add that, and we should see the correct response that we're expecting. All right, so I just put a name for myself and hit send again, and then hello Tobias. So if we go back to the function really quickly, we see that that's exactly what it's looking for, and this was the end result they was looking for. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions?
No, not for me. I think there was a question from Watson. He wanted to know what was the front end of the Azure Portal built in.
Oh, like this stuff. Wait, I don't have the sorry, questions up. Oh, it can. Oh, anybody can see it? Okay, is it too far away still?
Yep, yeah, but I don't see the screen anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's when I couldn't see the chat box. Okay,
Oh, okay. Yeah, he
so
want to know do they use a specific JS front end library?
so they use Node. Um, well, not front end library. The you can build functions in three languages: C sharp, F sharp, and Node. Does that answer your question? 'Cause remember, this is all the back end stuff. Um, do want to want to show you one little gotcha that I was kind of messing around with this morning. They don't really tell you this. Um, let's say I wanted to require the request library. Again, remember, this is just like Node. So you can do require, you can do just about anything you can do with Node. I want to look at the logs of this. All right, so if I hit save and run, what you see on the right-hand side as far as the output is 500 internal error. On the left-hand side of the log, you can see that I got a bunch of errors here. And what it's going to say is um, cannot find module requests. So what it doesn't do for you is if you put a require, it doesn't automatically go find the correct NPM library for you. You have to kind of add all that manually, basically. So you see your folder list here. You actually have to add a package JSON folder. And then and just like any node file you have coming up, you have to go in and put its dependencies in. So I have my package JSON in there now. Let's go back to index.js, which is where my function's at, and let's hit run again and see what happens. All right, so I hit run again, got another 500 error. Why did I get another 500 error? I just put my JSON package in. Still cannot find module request. The reason we're getting this again, even though we have a JSON package, well, can anyone guess why they still can't find the request module, even though we just added a JSON package that's familiar with Node?
You know that rules me out.
That's why I added it. I'm like, ah, dude. So with no, even though you have even though you have the package JSON in there, even with no, you always have to install it, and you have to do it here too. Um, so let's see what this thing was at. There we go. So actually give you a nice little console in here. It opens up just like it would, any console. Gives you the list. I think our I think our JSON function is in here. Right, so we have to actually do MPM install. This is a little bit, I mean, so it does a lot for you, but then when it comes to like basics, some of the basic stuff, it actually does not do it for you. You have to go in and kind of know that you have to, do an npm install, so it actually installs the JSON file. This takes a couple minutes. But let's say I actually just want to pull that out only because, if you're thinking you're just gonna kind of dump all your node stuff into functions now, a little bit more you have to do. And this is also why it's important to like kind of do this locally, because if it works locally and doesn't work up here, then you know it's having something to do with Azure. Those are just warnings there. But if we go back to our function now and hit run, it's basically doing the same thing, but now we're not getting an error because we have our JSON package JSON and we installed it. All right, so I just want to get that out there because I think that's a stupid little thing that they don't necessarily document very well anyplace. Okay, any questions?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. Definitely, please, if you're interested in Azure Functions, definitely hit me up, or give it a go. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Even if you decide you want to kind of learn a new language like C# or JSON, or Node, Functions is a really good place to do it because you're not bogged down with a whole bunch of stuff. You can just have to kind of do one thing and kind of figure out, you know, how to work it. Um, if there are no questions, I can guess I can go to my booth for a few minutes. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. All right, cool. I hope this was helpful. I know we ran through a lot of stuff. Definitely email me or hit me up on Twitter or hit me up in the booth for a few minutes if you have any more specific questions.